Thanks for joining us today, Red.
Well, thanks for having me.
If that is your name.
That's what I answer to.
Do you have many people call you Jerry, or does everyone still call you Red?
Yeah, some do. I didn't get the nickname Red till I was like 23.
Okay.
Nobody made fun of me growing up. Nobody, pointed it out, Carrot Top. And then one day one person did it, and that was it. It was just stuck.
How old are you now?
53.
Okay. So when I would have met you, you would have been right around 30. And that's how you introduced yourself to me.
Yeah.
So it became something that one person gave you, but you since adopted, it seems.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can't fight it. You can't give yourself a nickname, right? That's just, that's not a good look.
Fair.
But yeah, my favorite nickname, though, was given to me by James Williams, who was the guitar player for Little League Hero.
Mm-hmm.
And he referred to me as Rojo Fantastico, which is my Lucha Libre personality.
Fair. Normally nicknames, you try to go with something a little shorter, but
That's still my email.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But speaking of which, aren't they playing your stage soon?
Yeah. They're playing the 25th, which is also our friend Ian Clark's 50th birthday. I was at his 30th birthday party. So we're going to have a big night. Yeah, this first time Little League's back at Blue Note. Funny thing, Kyle Caldwell, singer for Little League, always says that, bands coming up, because Little League's been a great band for a long time. Yeah. They were my favorite band before I got to play with them. We did 100 shows together, at least, when I was in other bands. But Kyle always says that when bands are coming up, they all talk about how they play to nobody. One time at the Blue Note, Little League Hero was playing to nobody, and the bartender said, "If you'll watch the bar, I'm going to go home and make a sandwich." And they literally played their set for nobody.
Holy hell.
So that was a long time ago. Hopefully that's not the case on Friday. I'm sure it won't be. Little League's great.
Especially not with Ian's birthday.
Yeah, we'll have fun.
Who, again, I've met right around the same time that I met you. So we've kind of jumped here right in the middle. Let's roll it back. You are now the co-owner, is that correct, of the Blue Note?
Yeah, me and Chris Simon.
All right. And so, again, I know this has had a big part in your life as a musician and as a bar denizen. So how did you guys taking over the Blue Note come to be?
Well, Chris owned the High-Low before it was shut down and owns Lost Highway. I was living in Austin. And I kind of just, drunkenly backed into investing into some bars in Austin. I was hanging out at this honky tonk pretty regularly, and the owner of that place was about to open a second bar and was looking for investment money. And he and I become friends, so I backed him up on it, and then I backed him up on his next one, and I backed him up on his next one, and only on the investment side. And then I moved back up here 2019 when I had a kid, and Chris and I stayed friends through that period. I've known him for 20 years. We'd always talked about doing something, and he called me up one day and said that he had a chance to buy the Blue Note off of the previous owners and wanted to know if I was interested in coming in on it with him. So we decided that he would take over the operations, the bar side, and I would come in and take over the stage side with him.
And that's what I've always loved about the Blue Note was that it works 100% as a bar, but it would also work 100% as a live music venue because you've got the stage set up there. So I think kind of this hybrid, if you will, where it's not just a performance venue, but it's not just a bar. It always seemed like the sweet spot. I'd seen some amazing shows over the years, but it wasn't a 5+ night a week kind of carousel of musicians. What made you guys decide to really try to have live music more nights than most?
Well, town this size, and I love Oklahoma City. I lived here a long time before I moved to Austin. And I love Austin, but they're two different cities. In Austin, you can have venues that do live music 7 nights a week. There's enough demand for it. There's enough support. There's enough talent that you can run it. In Oklahoma City, I don't think that we have necessarily the demand and supply that if we're going to run live music 7 nights a week, that you're not going to get the quality that you're going to get by picking, the shows that you want. Samurai Sake House, if you remember them, they did live music 7 nights a week, 365 days a year. And our friend Dustin Wallace, who ran Conservatory, they were just a venue, and he ran hundreds of shows a year over there as a venue. The Blue Note, it's been there since 1954, I believe, back when it was set on Route 66 out there. And so it's been like, it has this legendary status about it, that it has always been a venue or a juke joint or a place to see music. But now that part of 23rd and those neighborhoods, Sparrow and Edgemere and Mesta and Heritage Hills, and it's going through a revitalization period through the uptown Oklahoma City, that it can serve as a neighborhood lounge type of establishment. And the music that we do, we try to curate a variety, because I think that's important too. Not only because I think variety makes the experience better, but because I don't think you could run rock and roll all the time and get the interest in it and the turnout and the bands that you want. So we're doing rock and roll. We're doing country. We work with JB and Original Flow and do hip hop shows. We're doing jazz every Sunday night, and then some variety events and bringing people in to do event spaces. The idea is that if we do good shows and high quality entertainment and bands that people want to see, that you can do enough of that without having to do it 7 nights a week, that the place can be a lounge for people to hang out, come and gather on the patio, what have you. And then we can offer music Thursdays, Fridays, Saturday, weekends, and it not lose its personality. Hopefully it's not confusing that Friday night may be a country show, Saturday night may be a metal show, Sunday night is jazz. It's not the same crowd coming in for all of it, but there's a through line on the bands that we have playing in there. And it's maybe difficult to find that through line, but for me, it's craftsmen and touring acts and our local guys and girls that have great bands that all have something to say. So that's who we're trying to get in.
Yeah, no, like you said, it may not be the same thing on a Friday night, but you generally can figure out what's going on. You're not keeping it a mystery per se, other than, of course, your jazz on Sunday nights. It seems like Fridays and Saturdays are when you book your bands that you expect to draw a larger crowd.
Yeah. And jazz is something that we wanted to do from the get-go, is we wanted to do something special, different. Now, I know that a lot of people are doing jazz, and jazz is seeing kind of a renaissance around here, and we have a lot of great jazz players in Oklahoma City. But we wanted to do something that was free to the public, that was rolling every week, that was consistent, and we just like the idea of having jazz in the place. And so we've been doing it for a little over a year now, and the jazz crowd is catching on. They're coming up to see them. The combos that we have rotated through there are incredible. They could play anywhere, and we've got them here. So I love Sunday Night Jazz. And we're also just partnered with R&J Supper Club.
Oh, really?
On Sundays, you can reserve booth reservations at a nominal fee and have an option of R&J food at the table for you.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
How was that work out? Do they deliver it, or do you guys have a kitchen set up back there? Yeah. Okay. All right.
We don't have a kitchen, but we do. We run it through the website. You make your reservation and you choose the option you want, and then somehow or another shows up on your table. It's there for you.
Fair.
We do the same thing with JB's Eastside Pizza. On any show night, you can reserve a table and have the pizza there for you.
I saw that. And honestly, that pizza is killer.
That's great.
I'm really excited. I know everyone has tried to revitalize the East Side, but I really think that JB putting that and then now Scrambled, I haven't made it over there yet, but a breakfast joint over there on that side. It seems like those two concepts have actually gotten their hooks in, and it's doing pretty well. What made you guys end up partnering with JB?
Well, we brought him in because there'd been a falling out with JB in the previous Blue Note before we took it over. And when I took it over, there was a few things that I wanted to do specifically within the vision that I had for the music in the place. And I know that it had a reputation as, it had gone from dive to dump before we got it. We had to redo all the infrastructure. Beyond that, I wanted to give it, I didn't want to reinvent it, but I wanted to do something that I felt was important with the arts and music here in Oklahoma City. That JB was one of the first people we called and reached out to say, this is new, and we want you back in here. I follow him. I see how he works with the community. I see his presence. I know that he's a great talent as well. I ran into him one of the first times, probably at South by Southwest 2010. Saw one of his shows when I was down there. And I wanted him back in the place. And I told him, I was like, we know country and we know rock and roll, but I don't really know hip hop, but you do. And so if you want to come in and do a show with us regularly where you bring in the talent and you get to host it and we get to see what is happening in that realm of entertainment and art in Oklahoma City. And so he came in and we talked, and he decided that, something he wanted to do. And he's brought us some great shows, and he brings great energy. And so he and I got to talking a little more, and he was bringing the pizza in, and he was like, why don't we set up something where we can do reservations with pizza, we can partner and do cross promotion, which is what we did. And I always love to quote JB, because whenever we get done talking about business, he closes with, let's work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're just trying to work within the community, getting out to all aspects of the community, working with, local restaurants, working with local food trucks, working with local bands, working with local artists and events, and hosting it and giving them a space where they can come and do. Yeah.
Actually, point of fact, I'll be interviewing next Carl Wheeler from High Grade Testing Lab. When I saw that they were putting on a party on your patio, I was like, that is the perfect space for a low key, just like customer appreciation thing.
Yeah.
Even out back, one of the things that you guys did really well was update the out back, because now indoors it's no smoking, but now you've kind of built these, what are they, 8-10 foot brick walls around the back. And
yeah, we basically tripled the size of that back patio, walled it in, have seating, and it's people love a patio. Daytime, people love sitting on the patio. Nice weather, the patio part of it's covered. So we thought, it's important, if we're going to be non-smoking, which we definitely wanted to be non-smoking, that we have to have an option for it. And people like sitting outside. People love sitting on a patio. So we put a lot of money into making that patio space big and open, and a place for, we've done a big art show out there where artists put their stuff all over the wall of the patio, and it's great and vibrant. And for like Wheeler's customer appreciation, it's a great spot to do it. It's easy, it's relaxed.
Yeah. And went off on the side there, but to circle back, did you say Original Flow is the one who's working with JB?
Original Flow does shows with us too. He curates a show called Hip Hoptopia, where he does a little cross genre, brings in R&B and rappers and his band and hip hop, and everybody loves Flow. That guy, he's great energy. He's a great talent, great worker. And I got to know him through JB because he brought him in on one of his first Presents night, and so we started working with him too, bringing him in, letting him have the stage to do to execute a vision of his in our spot.
Yeah, through his work, JB has become pretty much a household name here in the community.
Mm-hmm.
But Original Flow is one of those where if you pay attention to the scene, you know him, but he's this phenomenal talent that I don't think a lot of people in the city have really been made too aware of. But it seems like he's finally getting the due and recognition that he deserves. How are those? How do those events kind of fit into the general schema of what you guys are doing? Historically, I would say that over the last 10 or 20 years, Blue Note became known as a rock venue.
Mm-hmm.
But those hip hop shows, the country shows, are people flocking to these things? Or are they still a little confused? I mean, you've been open for a year and a half now. So.
Well, and people are going to know Flo because Flo's the coolest. My kid loves Flo. When I saw him at Sparrow Park, my kid asked me about Original Flow all the time. Flo makes an impression. He has crowds that show up for his show. The country crowds, when we have a good big country show, you walk in and the place is like, all cowboy hats. Mm-hmm. And when I talk about a through line on the bands and the music that's coming through Blue Note, everybody thinks they have great taste in music.
Sure.
Right. And everybody says, I like any music as long as it's good.
Right.
But it's all subjective. And that's why I say that, the people that I'm trying to bring in, we're not bringing in, country bands that are doing 4 sets of covers like dance hall, country, honky tonk. We're bringing in songwriters and people who are doing something new and something with, meaning and purpose behind it. And they are reaching their crowd. It took us a while for the country and western troubadour crowd, what have you, to know that we're doing that over here. But with the bigger names that we get, the more that they're seeing it and they're coming in. Now we're on their radar. Rock and roll, that's pretty much a given. The rock and roll crowd knows that rock and roll happens at the Blue Note. And rock and roll still happens at the Blue Note. And we just had Linda Gale Lewis come in for her second show with us, which is Jerry Lee Lewis's sister. And, her crowd came in. They had people drive up from Dallas and down from Missouri. They even had a couple that drove down from Milwaukee to come see her play at Blue Note because she's reaching, her crowd is seeing her. Like we could have advertised it and we did, but, the people that we reach would not necessarily know who Linda Gale Lewis is.
Sure.
Even though she's Rockabilly Hall of Fame and she's royalty and she's great. And she plays just like her brother. It's the artists that are coming in and seeing what we're doing and wanting to play the Blue Note and wanting to be a part of what we're doing that are reaching those other crowds and bringing them in to see what we're doing. And that's that's a big part of it is working with the artists. We want bands to want to play the Blue Note. We want great bands to want to come play the Blue Note. Off With Their Heads is coming back for their second show with us. And they're going to be doing, a big anniversary of one of their records that night. And, that crowd wants to see Off With Their Heads. They want to see them at the Blue Note. We're doing this thing every Sunday before a Monday holiday. We tried this in June with our jazz group. And I had an idea. I'm not the first person to have this idea, but I had this idea. I asked the jazz bands and I asked Original Flow, would you guys like to get together and do like hip hop over jazz? And so they did, and it was great. Flo got up with the jazz trio. They backed him up. He flowed. It was so much fun. We call it bebop and hip hop. And we're doing that again Labor Day Sunday. They're coming back to do that. So it's these interesting things. It's these interesting bands. It's these interesting, musicians that want to come and do something with us. We provide this space where we want to see creativity and we want to see people doing what they do. And like I said, everybody thinks that they have great taste in music, but most of what I want to see at the Blue Note, part of that through line is, some of my taste in music, and my taste runs the gamut. Now, I'm not saying that I'm lost on a lot of the new rock and roll, but I'm learning I'm finding it and learning it And like Rickshaw Billy's Burger Patrol out of Austin, just voted Austin's best metal band. Love them. They're hands down one of my favorite bands to come up and play. There's bands that weren't on my radar that are now. And, I'm not just booking the bands that I like, but I'm liking the bands that we book.
That's fair.
Hopefully there is a continuity to it, regardless of the genre.
Oklahoma City has the weirdest show crowds that I've ever seen. Some things that you would expect to have a ton of people have a handful. Mm-hmm. And then something like King Cabbage Brass Band here just murders it. I think that was one of the busiest shows I've seen at your place. Yeah,
they brought 187 people through the door on that. I mean, they were just so much fun.
Who would have imagined, though?
I know.
Like, that is such a unique thing. But do you think it's the uniqueness that let me re-ask this. What is it that you think gets people through your doors to see live music? Are these diehard fans? Are these people who are just looking to experience something new?
I think that the people come through. There are some people that will just come for the show. If they don't know what the show is, they'll still come in. But 187 people that were there for King Cabbage Brass Band, I probably recognized less than 10 of them.
Fair.
It was them bringing in their crowd. So they want to play our stage. We want them there. Their crowd likes seeing a show there. We want them there. Hopefully some of them end up coming back, filtering back through, start to see if there's other things that they like that are happening there. But really, I think what gets people through the door is it's a great place to see a show now.
Yeah.
We upgraded the sound. We rebuilt the stage. It sounds good in there. It's comfortable in there. It feels good. All of that stuff we can do. But if you're not putting on great shows, nobody's going to come and pay their money to see a show they don't want to see. So yes, we're working with these bands that are bringing these people through. It's the talent that does it.
Yeah. And what's your capacity in that building now?
We can do 200.
Okay.
We can do 200 tickets because we built out the back patio.
I see.
That gives us the capacity to do some bigger shows and get some bigger names through, sell some tickets.
Fair. And again, as you said, Austin was very much a music town, while Oklahoma City is a little bit tougher. How often do you have people who just show up looking to grab a drink who don't even know you do music?
It happens. I mean, people will pop in not knowing. It happened the other day. It was, I can't remember what show it was. It might have been the Linda Gale Lewis show, but we had a couple come in that they were just wanted to get a drink. And so we told them, that's fine. Just go have a drink, patio, not your thing, split. And then they came up to me after the show and they went to make sure that they had paid their cover because they stayed for the whole thing and they liked it. That's anecdotal. Some people come in, they just want to drink. Most people, are there for happy hour and daytime and patio. Nighttime, most everyone knows that there's programming Friday and Saturday night, so they're not just going to pop in. Some people just happen to wander in. But also, our production starts by 9 and we're done by midnight. And so people are understanding there's no cover after 11:30, so they can come and do last call. And industry can come in. So at the end of the night, it's always wide open.
See, I'm learning something here because I didn't know exactly how long those shows went. Is that something that you guys decided you needed to do, or is there some sort of bylaw in the city of when you're allowed to do live performances?
No, I think that's just the way the culture's changed. When I was coming up playing music here, 20 years ago, your show might not even start till 10:30.
Right.
And you go till 2.
Right.
But I don't. That's just not the way that people want to experience it anymore. And it's just a cultural shift, I think, in when you want to go see music and when the bands want to play and people want, options. They want to get it done earlier. And so, some of the country shows we do, especially like Linda Gale Lewis and some of the older crowds, they want it done even earlier. They're ready to go have the, early bird special and then come see the show and go home.
Fair.
And Red Dirt Rangers, they're coming in November. they want to start an earlier show. I think they're going to start at like 7 or 7:30. That's what their crowd wants. And Red Dirt, they're legends around here. And so we'll do their production early. Ian Moore is coming in September 23rd, and he wants to start right at 9 with no late support. So he's going to do his show from 9 to 10:30. We're just going to run his show, and then we'll open the doors at 10:30 for no cover, because that's what his crowd wants, and that's what he wants. So it varies. Some of the late night rock and roll metal, they can stretch it out a little bit.
Sure.
Their crowd still likes to hang around and drink, party. But for the most part, that's what we do, 9 to 12.
And I've noticed it seems like even touring acts, it used to be, doors 7 or 8 or whatever. And again, it would always stretch. But now it feels like even these road bands, they start a little earlier. Everyone does their thing and wants to clear out. Is that something that also happens in Austin or other places, or is kind of the earlier shows particular to Oklahoma City?
The thing about Austin is you could just walk around, Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, Saturday late night, and you walk down the sidewalk and you're just hearing music everywhere. You can pop in and see somebody doing something great, or maybe even, somebody famous playing somewhere. There's just so much music, and it will go, through the night. Oklahoma City, I just think that's just where we are right now. That bands and crowds want to come and do it early, and they don't necessarily want to wait around till 1 o'clock to hear their band play.
Fair.
Hear their favorite band play. They want to see it at 9, 10, 11, and then do whatever they want to do after that.
And on the evolution of this city, I met you here in Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't, I don't think, a few years maybe before you moved down to Austin. What prompted that move to leave OKC for Austin?
Man, I've moved to Oklahoma City like 3 or 4 times. I come from Texas.
Uh-huh.
So I grew up in Texas, but I never lived in Austin. And then I connected with some friends down there through friends up here, and just was at a point in my life where I wanted to go live in Austin. So I went down and, I played music, made great connections, loved the town, and stayed until I had a kid. And I knew I'd always come back to Oklahoma City, just because I seem to always come back to Oklahoma City. Just didn't know when. So turned out it was 2019. So I was down there for like 9 years.
Yeah. What is it about this place that brings you back? As a guy who has lived here my entire life and keeps threatening to escape.
I don't know what the pull is here. It's people, relationships that have always brought me back. I love the guys that I play music with here and write with here. And being back now, I've reconnected with a lot of them. And really, it's always been music that brought me back here. Just the relationships, the people I have, the music that I've played. Because Oklahoma City's always been, there's always been great music in Oklahoma City. Whether it's, at the forefront of our culture or underground, whether it's being supported or, if some bands here have gone on to blow up and get the recognition they deserve, some have not, but there's always been great music here. And I've always enjoyed making music here and listening to the music here. So that's what always brought me back time and time again from the time I first moved here a long time ago.
Someone mentioned that this week, that one of the touring punk bands that they know has come through multiple times, and I've seen them a few times. I don't know when and where I saw them in this city, but I have. But they said that Oklahoma City has one of the only true subcultures left in the United States. And I would have never put that together. It's kind of a forest for the trees. You're just used to it. But again, I think a lot of these music scenes, they're built on each other supporting each other so strongly. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's been not only you, but even someone who doesn't go out to a Blue Note or read the marquee like I do, or follow you guys online and pay close attention to what's playing at your venue. A lot of these names you've heard of before if you pay attention. And it seems like here, I mean, as a musician, can you compare and contrast like the relationships and how people support each other in Austin versus Oklahoma City. Do you see a difference at all?
Well, there is a difference. Austin is like an industry town. There's a ton of talent and great things happening in all of the arts, and there's a lot of just weird, interesting things that happen in Austin. And the musicians down there, you see musicians play with each other, in different bands, and you see that. Up here, I think you see a lot more of that, like as far as it's a means of, survival, connection. Guys will form bands here. People will form bands here, and then there will be splinters and side bands and projects because there's somebody I want to work with. So we work with them and we do this. And when I was coming up, we all the shows were like cross genre shows because we just had to all stick together. If we were gonna get 100 people in the room, it would be a rock and roll band, pop band, or punk band, or whatever. We were all just trying to work together to help each other and to raise the scene. Everybody that plays music in this town, I'm sure, it is with, there's a lot of young kids playing music now that I'm seeing, and it reminds me of when I was young playing music. Is they have to feel like there's this spring of talent and it's on the cusp of being something great and big and recognized, because we always felt that way too. But we were always working together and scrapping together, doing whatever we could. There's a lot of DIY in this town, and there's just this sense that of working with each other to elevate it. Who knows if Oklahoma City is ever going to pop and be recognized as a city of arts or a city of music. I don't know if the rest of the country is going to look at us and be like what happened with Seattle, or what happens in these pockets of the country where something blows up. But that's the way I think that you feel as a musician here. It's like, why doesn't everybody see how great the music is? Why doesn't everybody recognize how, these great songwriters and players and people doing creative things? So I think that kind of, that lends partly to the idea of all the musicians working together, because they're all trying to elevate it. They're all trying to bring it up. They're all trying to get it recognized. In Austin, it's recognized. It's everywhere. It's saturated. So, there's not as much of that. I don't know if it's like a chip on a shoulder or a solidarity. But yeah, there's definitely two different types of, they're two different cities, and that's fine. I love both. No, I just did an interview for Stroll magazine. You familiar with this publication?
I am not.
Okay. It's national, but it only goes out to historic neighborhoods.
Oh, okay.
So every historic neighborhood has their own Stroll, and it goes straight into the mailboxes of everybody that lives there.
Okay.
So this one's for Mesta Park and Heritage Hills.
Okay.
It's cheesy.
Yeah.
The front cover is always a profile of some family that lives in the neighborhood and their dog or something.
Of course. We did the Chronicle through the Gazette for years. It's the same thing. It's Edgemere Heights, Crown Heights, and
but one of the lady who runs that lives in the neighborhood, and she's a regular at jazz night. And so she asked if I would do an interview about the Blue Note. And I was like, well, actually, it's kind of perfect, because I don't know if Mesta and Heritage Hills know that the Blue Note can be their neighborhood bar.
Yeah.
So we did that, and the had some pictures in there, some picture of the family, me, Sarah Beth, and Noli. And of course, from the time that the interview was done and to publication, we split up. And so she was like, I saw that Stroll magazine came out. She's like, why did you even send him a picture of us? I was like, well, it's a family neighborhood thing. It happened before. And I was like, and besides, I don't even care, because you know how cool it is that a magazine comes in the mail. And I'm like, hey, Noli, you got a magazine. And he flips through it, and he's like, there, he's in the magazine.
Absolutely.
Like, that's fucking cool.
Absolutely. And what's the dynamics of the neighborhood? You make a good point. Like 23rd and Robinson ain't the 23rd and Robinson whenever I was a kid going down there for banh mi out of the milk bottle. And
Right.
I wasn't even old enough to get in bars, but it was a little rougher of an area. What are you kind of seeing with your audience as far as the demographic changes down there?
Yeah, the audience is like pretty diverse. It's fairly multicultural. There's an age spread. We're still trying to tap into that young, hip 20s crowd, the next generation of drinkers and bar goers and patrons. Getting them in there to let them know that this isn't. There's grown people here who don't remember when the Blue Note was nice or cool or whatever. It's like Nathan told me about Austin. He's like, when Austin was cool? He's like, whenever you moved here, ask anybody. And whenever they tell you it was cool, I guarantee you that's when they moved here.
Fair.
So these people, all of the people that come in, we have regulars that come in on daytime. We have some regulars that come in to see staff. Some of them are, holdovers from high-low. A lot of them aren't, but, we're getting a pretty good blend of east side and west side of 235. We're getting, older and younger, gay and straight, black, white, native. There's, or indigenous, I think, Chaban, that fills me in on, I try to keep up with everything. I do. I know that it's the next generation that changes language.
Sure.
And I want to respect that. But Chaban is a regular in there, and he comes in for the music. And me and Chaban go back 20 years. And Scott Wright's a regular, and Chase Vegas is a regular. So we have this whole cross section of people from all through the community and all different cultures and all different interests, and they're all, that's one thing we wanted to be is, all inclusive, just a place where, all are welcome. And
as compared to some other places that I do go to, I've noticed that whenever I venture over to Blue Note, the diversity is there. It's like you were saying, there's kind of that language of the young, and things change. And so obviously everyone's trying to be more diverse and inclusive, but at the same token, that can easily feel forced, where your audiences just feel like, no, this is where everyone comes because this is what feels like home. I mean, the first time I was in there in a cool minute, ran into Scott and ended up having a 30-minute conversation about, what he does and things that are going on the east side recently. You brought JB in. I feel like I've gone over to Kindred and East Side Pizza House quite a few times, but it still feels like it's easier for the east side to come over to Blue Note than it is to get folks on this side of I-235 comfortable with the idea of participating in nightlife over there.
Probably. I mean, there's a lot, everybody carries their own bias and preconceptions on everything, in the city, culture, everywhere you go, everybody carries that with them. And I think that, that's one thing I like about cross promoting with JB is we get his pizza over here for people that may not even be aware to go over there.
For sure.
But, now they can have it, and maybe that sends them over there. Maybe that drives traffic over to him, and he comes and does shows for us with crowds that probably Blue Note wasn't on their radar.
Right.
And then they come in, and now maybe it is. And even if it's not, we're working together. And diversity, I think, just makes anything better, and not just, culturally or, racially or, musically, but anytime you have diverse, opinions and people and backgrounds, there's so much of a bubble in social media where you're only getting fed what you want to hear. The algorithms do that, when you can be in a space where people are different from you and have different interests from you and different, experiences than you, and you're all there together. That's what like a tavern is supposed to be, for people to sit and talk and have fun and experience, music, and just be social. And so that's what I hope that organically that's just what it grows into. It's in a, it's been there for so long. And I sent JB this. There was Dave Spindle, who's a friend of mine, musician that I play with. He was doing a newspaper search on the Blue Note and found that I think it was 1960 something. Clara Luper staged a sit-in and protested the Blue Note because they had refused service to an interracial couple. And as soon as I saw that, I sent it over to JB. I was like, this needs to be a flyer for like our, anything. It was right around Juneteenth.
Absolutely.
We were doing a Juneteenth thing with the radio station. We were doing our hip hop bebop. We were playing, JB had a show coming up, and I was like, but this is part of the history of the Blue Note. It's not like it's always been this all-inclusive space and a place for everyone to gather. It has its own, as Oklahoma City does, as every place does, it has its own history that's not necessarily appealing or flattering, but it's there. And hopefully that's what we're moving past that, and we can just be a place where people can gather.
With a name like Blue Note, I always assumed that it was kind of a blues jazz bar from the get-go. So to hear that is honestly a little surprising.
Yeah, I think of it that way too, and I haven't found like a lot of history on who's played there. There's rumors that Charlie Christian played there but most everything is rumors and hearsay and people just making shit up.
Fair.
Like I do. But I imagine it as, a place where you heard blues and jazz. And the jazz musicians, when we started, Dave Bowen, he curates our jazz nights, phenomenal drummer. He said that the joke was always amongst the jazz people. It was like, well, where can we get a gig? And they were like, well, there's always the Blue Note, because that just wasn't going to happen. So maybe we're bringing it back, or maybe we're doing it for the first time. I don't know.
Sure. Sure. Either which way, I'm glad that it exists.
Yeah, either way.
And again, when you mentioned the sit-in, was it always a bar? Or was it a kitchen restaurant concept at any point?
I don't know. I mean, they slung some pizzas out of there, 10, 15 years ago. But I really don't know. And I think also that there was a Blue Note in the Paseo in the early 50s. And I don't know if that Blue Note is this Blue Note. The neon sign out front, I believe, is from 1961, though I'm not sure. I know that sign has been there for as long as I've known the place. But the rumor is it's 1961, so all right. That's what we say.
Well, maybe one of these days I'll put my reporter hat on again.
Yeah.
Sit down.
Tell me what you find.
and dig it up. Because, that's wild that it could have been one of, I think you mentioned another iteration that one for sure. Was it always at that location? It's
been at that location since, I think, 54.
Okay.
And it's been the Blue Note since 54 there. So it has continuously been that establishment.
Fair. Well, speaking of the past, let's roll back 5 decades. I have known you for 20 years, but I don't know you. Like, we always sit down and have conversations about music, culture, people we know, things that are going on, but I know very little about you. You mentioned that you were from Texas originally. Mm-hmm. Where were you born, and how did you make your first sojourn here to Oklahoma City?
Well, I should probably learn a lot from Bob Dylan and just not tell the truth in any interview. It's much more fascinating. Grew up in East Texas, small town. And, I'm 53, so growing up in the 70s and 80s, we're in a real bubble, real conservative part of Texas. But was, in my first band in 7th grade, started playing music, grew up classical. and then came to Oklahoma for the first time in 1989, following a friend of mine who was a year older at Oklahoma Baptist University, of all places, coming up on a music scholarship. And then just kind of started wandered down into Louisiana and Texas and back into deep East Texas. And each time coming back to Oklahoma to the guys that I was playing with then, and lived in Shawnee for a while, lived in Earlsboro for a while. But growing up in East Texas, that was, it's exactly what you think it would be. Old money, old religion. The Baptist church had MTV taken off of our cable service when I was in high school. Kind of like a whole Footloose thing going on there. So I was not long for it. And it's funny, in Austin, I met several people down there that are friends of mine now that were also from East Texas. And I think part of the reason that we all became friends is because we all made it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. And so you started music young.
Mm-hmm.
I've only ever known you as a musician. Is this kind of how you've made your trade all of these years?
I have always thought of myself as a musician. That's kind of how I identify. Piano player, songwriter. Like I've been in bands where I'm just playing keyboards, just playing piano behind songwriters that I like and bands that I like. And then I've done it where I'm the songwriter and I'm leading the band. I enjoy doing both. I've made a lot of friends in 2003 because I'd only been in the city for a few years. And I didn't know a lot of people in the city when I got here because I'd been in Shawnee and Earlsboro and other places. But I'd come back and got a chance to do a production of Hair with, I think it was Chocolate Factory at Stage Center. Did like a 12-show run. And Jacob Buchanan was the drummer, and the guys from Fellowship Students, which was a great band 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. They were in the band. Matt Brown was the lead, and I'd asked Jacob at the Blue Note. Fellowship Students were playing. I was like, "What do you got going on this summer?" He's like, "Well, we're going to do a production of Hair." And I was like, "I love that soundtrack." I was like, "Call me up if you want an organ player, because I'd love to do it." And I never heard back from him. And then he called me on a Sunday and said, "Do you still want to do it?" And I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, we're going to rehearse Monday and Tuesday with the cast Wednesday and open Thursday." It's like a 30-number set. And I was like, "Wow, I really admire your confidence." We did it, and it was great. And then I got to be a part of that whole group of people that I didn't know, the Fellowship Students. And then, it was, I was friends with Little League Hero, and I was playing with Jason and Wheeler in Mad Laugh, and got to do a run with Tyson, backing him up, Tyson Mead with Halston. So really that show opened the door to a lot of the people I know now that I still play music with now, that I still follow their music now. That was fun. And now 20 years later, I'm still playing with Jacob, and I'm still playing with Jason. I'm still playing with Kyle and a lot of the same guys that I played with back then.
I remember when you were first about to do this, you were a little cagey. You'd hit me up and be like, "You should come out." And you were playing, I believe it was Pump on Sundays. And something I want to talk to you about, but I had just taken over this. I'm like, "Sorry, man, my schedule's just stupid right now." And then come to find out that you took this. So you ever, I know you played a couple of times, but what's kind of your new project? And
well, I'd asked you to come out. I wanted to chat with you a little bit, probably about the Blue Note. And it was me and Jacob were playing the Pump, piano and drums, doing mostly original set. And I love playing with Jacob. He's a phenomenal drummer. He'd be a great drummer in any city in America. And we did that for a few years, just playing happy hours and brunches and just, working it because it was fun to do. I had a new kid, and it was like, I'm not going to be out gigging and touring, and but I wanted to do something. I love playing with him. And then this summer we've filled that band out with Dave Spindle on bass, who was with the Rounders and is now with So Longs. And David Brewster, who is a phenomenal talent here, has played with everybody, and Jason Tillis. I just called them up and said, would you guys want to do a show? And we put a full band together, call it the Red Snake. And so we're going to keep doing that. And that's what I'm doing now. When I was in Austin, I did a lot of, I had some residencies. I was just a piano player playing and singing. I played with some guys down there that I really enjoyed doing that. What I really want to do is, play piano, sing my songs, tell my stories, have like a great group of guys behind me, kind of create this Southern soul throwback kind of, I think it's somewhere along the lines of like a Leon Russell and some of that funk country that was happening in the 70s. That's kind of where I sit comfortably these days. I've played it all the rock and roll. I thought I'd play jazz until I saw the jazz guys that play at the Blue Note on Sunday. I never played jazz. So
Fair. Well, speaking of things that are playing the note, what do you guys have coming up this fall?
This fall, we've got November is stacking up with first weekend in November is Red Dirt Rangers. The second weekend in November is Mike McClure Band.
Mm-hmm.
Third weekend in November is Jesse Daniel, who's this great up and coming throwback traditional country guy out of songwriter out of South Texas. His band's amazing. He's amazing. So we're running those three. And then at the end of the month, it's not confirmed yet, but it'll either be the end of the month or 1st of December. We'll be doing our like troubadour, songwriter, Red Dirt country-ish showcase. We're partnering with Red Dirt Relief. It's a nonprofit here in the state that provides assistance to musicians when they need it medically or hard times. So they're partnering with us to do that showcase. We want to do like 4 showcases a year. We do a crawfish, boil, and blues showcase in the spring. This one in the winter. We have like a rock and roll thing in the summer. So November's shaping up. We're talking about how the programming can be staggeringly different every night. The weekend of Mike McClure, Thursday night is the Queer Punk Bang Bang Variety Show.
Sure.
Friday night is Johnny Polygon.
Mm-hmm.
And Saturday night's Mike McClure, and Sunday will be jazz.
That's wild. Now, Mike McClure, go ahead.
Yeah, he was in The Great Divide.
Yeah.
Which was one of the original, first generation of what I guess is Red Dirt now. But, yeah, he's bringing his band in, the Mike McClure Band, that second weekend of November. I've always liked Mike. I mean, Great Divide was a great band. Mike's a great songwriter. Trying to get him in for a while, so November's shaping up to look good.
And you mentioned the Rounders earlier. I hadn't heard that name in a minute. I went to college with Brian.
Oh yeah,
vocalist back then.
They were one of those great bands. When I was in the scene 20 years ago, they were just one of those local bands that was great. That there was several of them in town, but I always liked Rounders. And I like playing with Dave. They're talking about trying to do another reunion show at the Blue Note. It's not on the books yet, but if it happens, it'll happen at the Blue Note.
Wild. Yeah, you never know who you know. Because again, it was just in class with that dude. And he was like, oh, I'm in this band. And I look it up and I'm like, this calm, unassuming guy with long hair had no idea he had that set of pipes on him.
Oh yeah, man, they were great.
Just soft-spoken. And you also mentioned that you have Ian Moore coming, which I remember back in the days when I was a kid, that was really one of my first forays into kind of the blues rock.
Man, Ian is one of those guys that he is a phenomenal talent. Not only singing and songwriting and guitar playing, he's lived the life. He opened up on tour for Bob Dylan. He was in Sling Blade, and no matter where he goes across the country, his show is excellent. His set is excellent, and he remembers everybody's name. He's just so sweet, and he's probably one of the best guitar players on the planet. We've been trying to get him in since we reopened, so we've got him September 23rd.
Fantastic. You also mentioned Bob Dylan a million times in this interview today.
Have I?
Yeah. Well, is You also evoked Leon Russell there, but it seems like Dylan is probably the songwriter that most influenced your style.
Well, yes, I'm a big Dylan fan. Some even might say an acolyte of sorts. But there are, the thing about Bob Dylan for me is he has such a way with words, and when I listen to his songs, I can either be transported into this world that he's singing about as an observer, or it sounds just like the world, I'm living in. There's an identity to it. What I love about Dylan is I'll hear a song and I'll dig into it and listen to it over and over, and it just rings inside of me. And I think that the whole key to the universe is in these lyrics, and I'm trying to figure them out. And then by the time I spend so much time on that, I figure that he's probably just fucking with me. Like John Prine is the same way, but when John's making a joke. You don't know when Dylan's making a joke necessarily. Those guys. Dylan, easily my favorite songwriter, for sure.
I think
I always make a point to try to do a Dylan cover in my sets. Though I'll either do Dylan or John Prine, but I do want to try a thing in the spring on his birthday and see if we can do like a Dylan tribute here. I don't know if everybody likes him as much as me, or maybe 50% as me. Maybe we get a turnout for it, but put a band together and rotate some guys in and just do a Dylan night.
Well, last time I came to the note, we had this conversation about how many songs that are written by Dylan that people have heard performed by other people that they do not know were written by Dylan.
Well, that is a thing. And there's, Leon Russell had played piano on so many records, uncredited on a lot, that I've read that there's a parlor game where people try to figure out how many songs Leon Russell's played on. Did he play on this record or that record? I mean, and he's an Oklahoma guy. So, and he and Dylan played together. But I love Leon Russell. I love his piano playing, and it's pretty cool that he came out of Oklahoma.
Well, I know that Leon Russell gets lots of credit. I know you're a big Bob Dylan fan, but as an Oklahoma boy who found out about this far too late, I'm trying to get people into the works of Hoyt Axton.
I've listened to Hoyt Axton for sure. I like him.
It's one of those where I'm like, have you ever seen Gremlins? Yeah, I'm like, it's the dad. And they're like, really? Yes. Now listen to these 6 records. Don't talk, just listen. Do you find that audiences are more inclined here to go after music that they already know, or is this diverse lineup kind of opening people's eyes and getting people to show up to shows that they wouldn't otherwise have?
I hope that people see how diverse our programming is, and that when they are in and see the shows, that it is a good show, that it may spark them to think, well, I don't know what's going on this night or this band, but everything has been quality, so they may want to check it out. I think people are just going to go see what they want to see. You've got a handful of people who are curious in this world. Not everyone is. Most people are not. That will want to go out and find something new and see what's happening new, which was part of my experience. Like I said, with rock and roll and what's going on with rock and roll. I was listening to heavy metal when I was in junior high. It was getting me through those tough times. But I had no idea what was going on with it now. And we've had like these great doom metal bands that come through, and I have the luxury of being there, to see these shows. I'm at almost every show. So I'm putting my eyes and ears on what's happening. And it's, refreshing to be able at 53 years old to find, joy and appreciation of what the next generation is doing with rock and roll. Absolutely.
And I'll say everyone that you have mentioned, very disparate talents, but of the same breadth and depth. So, I mean, if your mission is to have this through line of talented musicians across all genres and do some community events as well. You're knocking it out of the park.
Well, thank you. That's what we're trying to do.
I wish you all the best of luck moving forward. And you'll see me out there, maybe on the patio more often than I should be, but I'll see you there.
Yeah. Let me know when you can come. I wanted to get you, when I asked you to come to Pump, I said, I'll buy you a DNR or a FDR. That's the mix you drink, which is F5 and DNR coupe. And I always make the joke that the FDR, you're only supposed to have 2, but you end up having 4, and then you can't walk.
Yeah, exactly.
But nobody gets the joke. So I thought you might like it.
Thanks again for being here.
Well, thank you, Digger.